on this first Thursday in 2018. It's just good to be, it's just good to say that this is another day that the Lord have kept us. Another day that He kept us. Instead of us being so scattered out, why don't we just at least come in between these two pews? So you all on the far side over there, come into the center. And somebody get the mic, and we're going to start at the back. Chapter 12 of Exodus. Going to start at the back, all the way to the back row. There's young ladies on the back row. We're going to start back there, get chapter 12 of the book of Exodus. And we are talking about tonight, in this chapter, the Passover. This is the 10th plague, the Passover. So if you don't know the procedure, each person that get the mic read 5 verses. Read 5 verses. All right? Exodus chapter 12. Exodus chapter 12. Verse 1 through verse 5.
Oh, okay, because we left off at 21, but start at 1.
Well, no, we're going to go back and pick them up because I know that if I did, somebody's going to be confused.
Okay. Okay. Now the Lord spoke to Moses and Aaron in the land of Egypt, saying, This month shall be your beginning of months. It shall be the first month of the year to you. Speak to all the congregation of Israel, saying, On the 10th of this month, every man shall take for himself a lamb, according to the house of his father, a lamb for a household. And if the household is too small for the lamb, let him and his neighbor next to his house take it according to the number of the persons. According to each man's need, you shall make your count for the lamb. Your lamb shall be without blemish, a male of the first year. You may take it from the sheep or from the goat.
All right. Now, in this Passover, God gives them precisely the information that He wants them to follow. And God still have written the precise information that we ought to follow in everything that we do for Him. Because Paul said, Brethren, I will not have you ignorant. And ignorant means misinformed or uninformed. And so if we do stuff wrong, it simply means we didn't read the direction. So this is what he said to them. He wanted them to, and we look at verse 2, this month shall be unto you the beginning of months. It shall be the first month of the year to you. So the month that the Jewish calendar, we call it the resurrection. They call it Passover. And it's March where they start the equinox. They have the 40 days of fasting and eating no unleavened bread. They eat but no unleavened bread. And that's why Easter is dependent on the moon. That's why Easter can fall sometime the last Sunday in March or no later than the fourth Sunday in April. And so it's all on the equinox, as they call it, of the moon. So God gave them that instruction, and He said, and if the household, told them to get a lamb for a house. He told them that the lamb, if the house was not big enough for the lamb, then 2 families, they could get another lamb or a kid goat, which is the baby goat. And He gave them the instructions as to how long they was to keep the lamb. The lamb was not to be put among the other animals. The lamb could not have any blemish. It had to be a pure lamb. And verse 5 said that, and your lamb shall be without blemish, a male of the first year. Ye shall take it out from the sheep or from the goat. So they could not still mingle with the other lambs or goats. All right, verse 6 through 10.
And ye shall keep it up until the 14th day of the same month. And the whole assembly of the congregation of Israel shall kill it in the evening. And they shall take of the blood and strike it on the two sides posts and on the upper door posts of the house, wherein they shall eat it. And they shall eat the flesh in that night, roast with fire and unleavened bread, and with bitter herbs they shall eat it. Eat not of the raw, nor sodden at all with water, but roast with fire his head with his legs, and with pertinence thereof. And they shall let nothing of it remain until the morning, and that which remaineth of it until the morning ye shall burn with fire.
All right. Now, the lamb was to be how old? How many days were they to keep the lamb? 14. What is 14? Double completion. It was double completion. And you note that in the double completion, God is saying, when we say completion, 7 is the number of what? Completion. So you had double completion. And so God was purifying the lamb for the house and the lamb for the people. So it was a twofold thing why he had him to do that. Now he said, don't eat the blood. Do not boil the lamb. I don't want it boiled. You got to roast it. He told him what to take out, what to eat. It was not a sit-down banquet. You're going to see that. They was to eat it and follow the instruction. Now, think about this. The children of Israel, Pharaohs and all his peoples around them, and yet God is telling them and giving Moses all the instruction of what he wanted them to do. And he tells them that this is what I want you to do. I want you to kill a lamb or a goat. Don't want you to boil it. Don't want you to do any. If any is left, it got to be burned up. We don't want anything left. Everything have to be burned up. All right? And so then he tells them that the gird themselves, that'll be coming up. Go ahead and read that verse 11 through 15.
And thus shall ye eat it, with your loins girded, your shoes on your feet, your staff in your hand, and ye shall eat it in haste. It is the Lord's Passover. 12. For I will pass through the land of Egypt this night, and will smite all the firstborn in the land of Egypt, both man and beast, and against all the gods of Egypt I will execute judgment. I am the Lord. 13. And the blood shall be to you for a token upon the houses where ye are. And when I see the blood, I will pass over you, and the plague shall not be upon you to destroy you, when I smite the land of Egypt. 14. And this day shall be unto you for a memorial, and ye shall keep it a feast to the Lord throughout your generations. Ye shall keep it a feast by an ordinance forever. 15. 7 days shall ye eat unleavened bread. Even the first day ye shall put away leaven out of your houses. For whosoever eateth leavened bread from the first day until the seventh day, that soul shall be cut off from Israel.
All right. Now, note how God is laying the plan. Yes.
Is this a first mentioned principle?
These are first mentioned principle because this is the start of what is called the Passover feast. So it had not been before.
So you made a statement earlier about this wasn't a banquet, and the scripture bared it out where they
Right.
just said haste and that. But every time after that first occasion, it's a feast now. So
It's a okay. Remember, I'm gonna get to it in just a minute. I'm gonna show you what it said. All right. Now in verse 11, it says it's not a set. I said it's not a sit down dinner. Eat it with your in haste, and it's God's Passover. It's God's Passover. It's God, and the Passover is saying it is God that is predetermined his mission. His mission was to deliver the children of Israel. So he passed over so that they would not forget it, and he killed every oldest person, son, daughter, whichever household it was, and he started at Pharaoh's house and started with Pharaoh's servants, every one of them, the oldest one. That's what the Passover meant to them. It was God exemption. He was exempting Israel from dying to bring them out. And so then in verse 12, he carried out his judgment against Egypt. Because he told Abraham, that I'm going to send your people down in Egypt. They're going to be here for 400 years, and I'm going to deliver them. So they was there 430 years. And so God now takes his judgment upon Egypt. Then in verse 13, the blood to Israel was a token. That's what I want to get you. It was a token. A token then is a sign. You know, we see the American flag. That's a token. All the country have their flag. That's a sign. That's a token. They're Japanese. This is Japan flag. Da 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 da. So the blood then was a token that God said, it's a sign, it's a monument, it's a prodigy that I want you to use to symbolize this forever and let them know I am the Lord that delivered thee. Did that answer your question? Okay, ask it over.
We haven't got it. Yeah, just keep
Okay, and verse 15,
14.
I got 14 then, the memorial, remembrance, the records, reminder, and then verse 15, the convocation. And the convocation is assembly for religious purpose. So what's your question?
Yeah, so you skipped over 14.
And this day shall be unto you for a memorial, and ye shall keep it a feast.
So my point is, if it's a memorial and it's a feast now, then it can be eaten in a different setting than it was originally, because he told them specifically, do this in haste.
Right. Now, they're not doing it in haste now. The Jews keep this, and they call it the Seder.
Okay, that's
They set the table with the bitter herbs, with the bone of a sheep, the lamb. It's not broken, because they said not a leg was broken on Jesus, and so the lamb represented Christ. And so the bone is set on the table, the wine is set on the table, the bitter herbs are there, and then they have the unleavened bread. So he said, now, God did it first for their deliverance. Now, as a memorial, they have to explain it to their children. The Jews still do it. They still do it. Did I answer your question? Yes.
Unleavened bread.
You what?
Unleavened bread.
No, you mean what we would call baking powder or yeast? They cook it without that. Nothing to make it rise. Matter of fact, yeast was considered sin. It alters your flesh. It rises. So that's why he said unleavened. God said, don't want you to use anything to make it good. All right? Verse 16 through 20.
On the first day, there should be a holy convocation, and on the seventh day, there should be a holy convocation for you. No manner of work shall be done on them, but that which everyone must eat, that only may be prepared by you. So you shall observe the feast of unleavened bread, for on this same day I will have brought your armies out of the land of Egypt. Therefore you shall observe this day throughout your generations as an everlasting ordinance. In the first month, on the 14th day of the month at evening, you shall eat unleavened bread until the 21st day of the month at evening. For 7 days no leavened bread, no leaven shall be found in your houses, since whoever eats what is leavened, that same person shall be cut off from the congregation of Israel, whether he is a stranger or a native of the land. You shall eat nothing leavened in all your dwellings. You shall eat unleavened bread.
All right. Now, would you see something? 14 was how long they kept the the lamb or the goat. The feast was what? 7 days. So now you have 3 times 7, which is 21. So now you have 3 completion. Number 20 is expectation. So now, and 1 is God. And 3 times 7 is 21. All right, so now you got 3 completion. The other 7 days, remember you had the feast. First of all, God delivered us the 7 days. So the 7th was, the next 7, the 14, was the time for purification for the lamb, 14 days. Now, 7 days of feast is for us to purify ourselves, the convocation. For them, he said, I want you to remember this. And when you go to a convocation, you're going to something special. You go in there for some class. You go in there for some, they have all type of classes, and it should help somebody. So now God is saying, these next 7 days is for you to be complete for the things that I'm going to be doing. And the reason why that we don't understand God, we don't wait for the completion. We just want to get out and say, well, it ought to be done this way, but follow the instructions.
And during those 7 days for man, there was instruction to eat no unleavened bread.
Okay, their body was not getting what they wanted. So now you're sacrificing your body. No unleavened bread, no good food, bitter herbs, no leavened bread, and no food that tastes good, bitter herbs. And if anybody would bring any of that or have any of it among Israel and the people with them, they would die or be put out of the camp. Yes.
Verse 2 says, and it shall be unto you the beginning of months, and it shall be the first month of the year to you.
Right, to Jews. The Jews' calendar are different from us,
I
ours.
understand that, and their first month was April, wasn't it?
No, March.
March is the first month of the Jewish calendar.
March. And now they don't call it Abib, they call it Nisan.
Okay. And even though we know that time has gone by, generations have come by, but it's just he just like ordains or just makes it, forms time just by saying it.
Watch this. They was on Egyptian time for 400 years. They didn't have no time. So now God said, I'm delivering you, and this is the beginning of time for the Jews. So that's where their calendar started.
One more here is, he says, this is, I love the word of the Lord, because he seems to tell you what's going to happen.
That's what I'm
before you realize what's going to happen.
Yes.
Right here he says in verse 17, and you shall observe the feast of the unleavened bread, and and I brought your armies out of the land. And we know that the armies hadn't been formed, hadn't been brought to the status of army yet.
So he was calling things that was not as though they were, because the men's made up the army.
Yes.
All right? Yes.
I'll make a clarification. I looked up feasts, and there are 7 Jewish feasts, and feasts primarily mean appointed time.
A feast is appointed time, but it was appointed time because he told me to do it every year as a memorial. But the convocation was the teaching of God's word, set aside for that.
So they were all appointed time.
Yeah, at appointed time. That's why he told him memorial.
Just like we have
Appointed time.
time for our convocation.
Exactly right.
The feast is an appointed time
No,
It doesn't mean to sit down.
no,
It means it is an appointed time.
right. They had 7 of them, right?
Yes.
7 of them
It is an appointed time. With this appointed time, we're gonna do this every year.
every year.
At this appointed time, like they're doing right now, every year, at that appointed time that it happened back then, they're doing it right now.
Right.
At the appointed time.
Well, that was what he said. Thank you. And that's what he said, a memorial.
Yes.
So make it a memorial for you to do that. All right, verse 21 through 25.
Verse 21, then Moses called for all the elders of Israel and said to them, pick out and take lambs for yourself according to your families, and kill the Passover lamb. Verse 22, and you shall take a bunch of hyssop,
Hyssop.
drip it in the blood that is in the basin, and strike the lintel and the 2 doorposts with the blood that is in the basin. And none of you shall go out of the door of his house until morning, for the Lord will pass through to strike the Egyptians. And when he sees the blood on the lintel, on the door, on the 2 doorposts, the Lord will pass over the door and not allow the destroyer to come into your house to strike you. And you shall observe this thing as an ordinance for you and your sons forever. It will come to pass when you come to the land which the land will give you, just as he promised, that you shall keep this service.
All right. Now, see the instruction that God gave them about don't go out? He told them what to take the hyssop. Hyssop is a plant that is like a brush, and put it on the doorpost and to put it on the lintel. That's the frame. But don't go out, because the death angel, when he see the blood, he's going to pass over. But if you decide you want to go out, you came out of the protection of God. Many times the things that happen to us, it doesn't happen because it was God's will. You just stepped out of the protection of God. You came out from under where God told you not to go. And then you suffer the wrath. It wasn't that God wanted to do it, but we were just hard-headed. And we suffered the wrath. So he told them to stay in until the morning. Because when I see the blood, he's going to pass over. Then he tells them that to keep this, he make it now an ordinance, which is a law. And sometimes the people, we're going to see, sometimes the people blame the Jews for having the Passover. But he said to them to keep this forever. He told them to keep it forever. And they do it. The Orthodox Jews keep it forever. And it's not just, think about this, what they don't do, that we do. Easter is a time that we dress up. Even sinners dress up. It's a time that we eat some of everything. It ain't nothing that we eat that we don't like. We eat all the stuff we like. Come on, let's face it. Amen. But this is God. This is Jesus Christ. We're supposed to be in remembrance of him. But yet, we're not really remembering Jesus. We're remembering ourselves. We're remembering ourselves. And so, if you just think about it, why that Easter is so secular? Because the Christians have helped made it secular. If we had to stand like the Jews, and it was a time they did not even open up stores on Sundays. There was a time that you could not buy liquor in a market. It said it was a liquor store, and that's what was in there, liquors and cigarettes. So if you was in there, they know you wasn't buying no popcorn. That's the truth. You wasn't buying popcorn. They didn't have any. They didn't have no candy. They have nothing in there but liquors and cigarettes. So, they're following the instruction, and it shall come to pass when ye become to when ye be come to the land which the Lord will give you, according as he hath promised, that ye shall keep this service. So God's saying, when you get there, don't forget about where I brought you from. When we get to where God wants us to be, and we get there where we have money to save, we get there where we have a house, we get there where we have clothes, and so many that we can't even wear them and never going to wear them again. We just put them up for display. When we get there, don't forget where God brought you from. Amen. Don't forget about that one pair of pants you once had, that one dress, or those two dresses that you once had. Now, some of y'all may not have been down to that, but I remember. All right, verse 26.
And it shall come to pass, when your children shall say unto you, What mean ye by this service? That ye shall say, It is the sacrifice of the Lord's Passover, who passed over the houses of the children of Israel in Egypt, when he smote the Egyptians and delivered our houses. And the people bowed the head and worshipped. And the children of Israel went away and did as the Lord had commanded Moses and Aaron. So did they. And it came to pass that at midnight the Lord smote all the firstborn in the land of Egypt, from the firstborn of Pharaoh that sat on his throne, unto the firstborn of the captive that was in the dungeon, and all the firstborn of the cattle. And Moses rose up in the night, he and all his servants, and all the Egyptians. And there was a great cry in Egypt, for there was not a house where there was not one dead.
Not one dead. Now, not a house where the oldest one was dead. That ye will shall say, he told them what to tell their children about it. The whole story, they rehearsed it, that when he smote the Egyptian and delivered them out of the houses, and the people bowed their heads and they worshiped. And the children of Israel went away and did as the Lord had commanded Moses and Aaron. Then the death of the firstborn. There was crying all over Egypt. They was weeping. Midnight, oldest dog, oldest cow, oldest horse, oldest child was dead, except the house that had the blood. Do you understand that out in these markets, maybe you don't think about that, out in these markets, going to the store, people are robbing folks, but it's something about the blood that the devil can't get by. Something about the blood. You may not think God have covered you in a lot of time, but when the video is replayed of our lives, and God pulled back the curtain of time, you will see how many times you should have been dead, but God spared you. And so when people say they don't have nothing to thank God for, that's the biggest lie you ever told. Because we all have something to thank God for. Just for being alive, just for being here today, just for him taking care of us today. Today, if you think about it, every time you drive that freeway, every day on the freeway there's a wreck. Every day somebody's being ran down by cars, getting run. Every day it happened. But thank God that we made it through this day and it didn't happen to us. Verse, yes.
Now, the Jews, God instructed the Jews to do this. What about a Jew that may come to Christ and accept Christ? Is he still obligated to do this?
No. Here's the reason why. Because Jesus took all the law and wrapped it up in him and died and said, "Come unto me, all you that are labor and are heavy laden, and I'll give you rest." So Jesus is El Shaddai. He is he is Shalom. He's all of them. He's everything. Now, if you want to live under that law, you have to do them. 100% you do them. But if you don't, Jesus came to us and he died in our stead. He reconciled us unto him. And I'll give you the scripture. 2 Corinthians 5:17. If any man be in what? He's a what? New creature. Why? Old thing. The old law passed away in Christ.
I understand. This is still what bothers me. He said you are to keep this unto your generation and then teach your kids about what he did for them. You're going to say now they don't have to do that anymore.
If they become what we call Messianic Jews, they don't. If they want to be Jews, they can do that, and then God, they still say they'll keep it. This was the law he gave to the Jews.
But I'm just saying, do they have a double obligation?
No.
But they still teach
No.
the history, though, Pastor.
Huh?
They're still part of the history.
They still part of the history. They don't. That's right. So they keep their history.
Okay, that's important.
They do it. I mean, we was there. They do it every day. Every day. Wouldn't it be something if we kept some of our history?
You have to know it first.
All right, read.
Pastor, one more before you continue. One of the key things, again, in regard to what's really happening, we must always remember that what is being set up is what happened in Genesis, is that when God created humankind, it was to be for him, to worship him, to have a relationship with him. Now, the key is also he's always been after disobedience came in through Adam and Eve. God has always been after his group, people who belong to him personally. So we must recognize why the blood is critical. Because now God is now setting apart a group of people that belong to him. And he gives them specific instruction, just as he did to Adam.
That's right.
And to be a part of his people, we must follow his instruction because we are part of his kingdom.
Right.
Very clear, we need to understand. So now the key thing, though, what happens is we must recognize that always hit Israel, like it does today, is disobedience and rebellion.
That's
we
right.
find there's always a theme all the way through that God is going after his people who belong to him. However, he sets the parameters by which we ought to operate in his kingdom, but disobedience and rebellion keeps drawing us away from him. And that's why you see why the power of grace is so much profound in the Old Testament, it has said. Okay? He's after a people group, people that belongs to him, that's separate, that's different from anybody else. And that's his sovereign will.
And let me put an addendum to that, is that Israel is the only people in Judah that God continually went after.
Yeah, that's why.
He continually went after them because they are his people. Israel, Judah is mine, Israel is mine. Even though he punished them, and when they were straightened up, he would punish the people that punished them.
Because the key to that was his covenant relationship. So people
That's right.
God bind himself to his people.
To them.
The kingdom belongs to him specifically.
And you know the covenant that the Jews have? I don't care if they're in Israel, all over the world, in Pakistan, if they are a Jew, part of the religion, they are faithful. Millions and millions of dollars are sent from all over the world from Jews into Israel to make sure that that Jerusalem is sustained. Millions. Not just the lady, they told us when we was there, when we was in the class, they said that right now in Pakistan, that there are 2 million Jews, 2 million Jews is going to be put out, thrown out. They got to leave because they're going to kill them. We've already made preparation for every one of them to come here. And so when they come here, we're going to take care of them. 2 million. So we're going to take care of them. So if you are a Jew, wherever you are in the world, we will take care of you. Because that's what they believe, and taking care of their people.
They have something that was taken from us through slavery, is because it was passed down from Moses in the time. They had a way and a welfare system that they taking care of their own.
Take care of their own.